They say love makes your heart race, your palms sweat, and your thoughts scatter into tangled knots. But beneath all that drama, what is love really? Is it something ethereal and transcendent, or just a complex cocktail of chemicals swirling in our brains? It's tempting to believe that love is otherworldly, a divine force that tugs at our hearts across lifetimes. But science has its own, less poetic version of events. According to biologists and neuroscientists, what we call love is heavily influenced by neurochemistry. Oxytocin, often dubbed the love hormone, gets released when we cuddle, touch, or even make eye contact. Dopamine surges during the thrill of early romance. Serotonin dips, anxiety spikes. Our brains behave in erratic, almost obsessive ways when we fall for someone. In fact, some researchers have compared the brain of a person in love to that of someone on cocaine. That's how powerful and chaotic love's chemistry can be. Evolutionary psychologists add another layer to this picture. They argue that love evolved as a survival mechanism. It kept our ancestors bonded long enough to raise children, ensuring the passing on of genes. From this view, love isn't some cosmic magic. It's a tool shaped by natural selection. We bond because bonding helped us survive. But even if that's true, does it really explain love? Here's where things get interesting. Knowing that love has a chemical basis doesn't make it feel any less real. Think about it. We don't dismiss hunger or pain just because we know they're triggered by hormones and nerves. If anything, understanding love's biological roots can make it even more mysterious. Why did evolution give us something so overwhelming, so intoxicating, so deeply human? And what about those moments that science can't fully account for? Like the way you remember the scent of someone's skin, the way their absence feels like an ache in the bones, or the way a simple text message can turn your whole day around. There's something about love that feels greater than its parts. It might be chemistry, yes, but maybe it's also chemistry elevated into poetry. Some scientists argue that we romanticize love too much, that it's all just neural circuits and hormonal feedback loops. Maybe they're right, but even if love begins in the brain, it doesn't stay there. It moves. It builds bridges between people. It finds its way into letters, lullabies, and acts of kindness that ripple across generations. So maybe the real question isn't whether love is just chemicals. Maybe the question is, why do those chemicals create something that feels so much like meaning? In the end, love might be the result of biology, but the experience of love, that warm, aching, joyful flood of being known and accepted, that feels like something else entirely. It feels like life itself. If love is a mystery, then philosophers have been its lifelong detectives, asking questions that don't always have answers, but still insist on being asked. Plato, ever the idealist, imagined love not as something rooted in flesh or longing, but as a kind of ladder. At the bottom rung, physical attraction. But as one climbs, love becomes more abstract, a love of minds, then of ideals, and eventually of beauty itself, pure and eternal. In his dialogue, The Symposium, Plato describes love as a force that propels us toward truth, using the desire for another person as a gateway to something far more transcendent. For Plato, love wasn't just romantic, it was philosophical. It was a tool for the soul's awakening. Fast forward to the existentialists, and things take a more uncertain turn. Soren Kierkegaard, with his deeply Christian yet deeply human anxieties, saw love as a kind of leap. Not the leap of passion we associate with fairy tales, but a leap of faith. A commitment to love despite its uncertainties, despite its pains. For him, real love wasn't found in romantic idealism, but in selfless giving. what he called agape, or unconditional love, the kind that sticks around when beauty fades, when life disappoints, when things get hard, the kind of love that doesn't just happen, but is chosen. Nietzsche, always the provocateur, had a more skeptical view. He believed romantic love often masked deeper instincts, possession, control, ego. He thought many of us were less interested in loving someone than in being loved by someone, a subtle but vital difference. Still, he didn't dismiss love altogether. He just challenged us to interrogate what we mean when we use that word, and whether we're truly capable of loving someone without trying to own them. And then there's Simone de Beauvoir, who saw love, especially for a woman, as entangled in power. She asked whether love could be truly free when society told women their worth was measured by how much they were loved. In her view, love becomes liberating only when both parties recognize each other as equals, two free subjects, not one absorbing the other. Through all these voices, one theme seems to return again and again. Love is more than a feeling. It's a kind of moral and spiritual terrain, something that reveals who we are and challenges us to become more. Philosophers haven't agreed on what love is, but perhaps that's the point. Love resists definition because it stretches across so many forms: eros, friendship, family, compassion, longing, loyalty, grief, each a different note in the same aching song. So maybe we don't need one answer to the question, what is love? Maybe we need 100 answers, layered and lived, contradicting and coexisting. Because love, like philosophy itself, isn't about certainty. It's about the longing to understand. When we say the word love, what do we really mean? It's a single syllable, but it carries the weight of 1,000 emotions. Passion, sacrifice, loyalty, grief, joy, and everything in between. The Greeks, perhaps sensing how clumsy one word was for such a complex thing, gave us many. Eros, philia, agape, storge, ludus, pragma. Each one pointing to a different way we experience love. And maybe that's where our exploration should begin, not with a singular definition, but with a kaleidoscope of connections. Romantic love, eros, is often the loudest. It's the kind we write songs about, build plots around, crash lives into. It burns brightly and sometimes burns out just as fast. It's the electric spark, the gravitational pull toward another person's body, mind, and soul. But as powerful as it is, eros can be volatile. It asks for vulnerability and sometimes demands surrender. We fall in love, but we don't always land. But there's also philia, the love between friends, quieter but no less meaningful. It's the person you call when you're unraveling, the one who knows your favorite snacks, your worst fears, your most ridiculous opinions. Philia doesn't burn as bright as eros, but it's steadier, more forgiving. It's the love that grows not out of passion, but out of trust. Then there's agape, selfless love, the kind that gives without expecting in return. The kind you might feel for a child or a stranger in need, or humanity as a whole. Some see it as divine, others find it in everyday acts of kindness. Holding the elevator, picking up the phone at 2 a.m., forgiving someone who didn't ask to be forgiven. It's the love that reminds us we're all connected, that the boundaries between us are more porous than we think. And we can't forget pragma, enduring love, the kind that survives real life. Dirty laundry, hospital visits, arguments over money, time zones, traffic. It's not always poetic, but it's deeply human. It's showing up, staying, trying again tomorrow. Pragma isn't as romantic as what we see in movies, but maybe it's more profound. Love isn't just one thing, it's a spectrum. Sometimes it arrives as lightning, sometimes as a slow drip, sometimes it hurts, sometimes it heals. But in every form, it reminds us that we're not meant to go through life alone. We are wired to connect, to love and be loved in return, even if we get it wrong sometimes, even if it doesn't last. Love in all its shapes gives color and texture to our lives, complicates things, yes, but it also makes them worth living. Maybe that's what makes love so central to human existence. It isn't just a feeling, it's the space where we learn to see others and where we allow ourselves to be seen. For centuries, love and religion walked hand in hand. In many traditions, love was seen as divine, a gift from the gods, or even the essence of God himself. But what happens when belief fades? In a world that is increasingly secular, does love still mean something? Can it still anchor us when the heavens go quiet? This question might seem unsettling at first. Without the structure of religion, love could feel like it's lost its sacredness, just another chemical cocktail in the brain, something to be studied, not revered. But even without religion, love persists, and it still feels holy, doesn't it? In fact, love may be one of the last things we still treat as sacred. We protect it, we seek it, we mourn it when it's gone. Even those who don't believe in any god often believe in love, in its power to heal, to change us, to give life meaning. That in itself is remarkable. Albert Camus and Jean-Paul Sartre, though famously atheistic, still saw love as profoundly meaningful. Camus believed that in an absurd world, one that offers no cosmic justice or eternal reward, the way we treat each other is everything. If life has no inherent purpose, then the love we give becomes our act of rebellion against meaninglessness. It's how we say, I choose to care, even if the universe doesn't. Sartre, too, understood the weight of love in a godless world, but he warned that it can also be dangerous, a temptation to escape our own freedom by disappearing into someone else's gaze. Still, he believed in our capacity to choose love authentically, to love without needing guarantees, to embrace another's freedom alongside our own. There's something liberating about that idea. Love doesn't have to be cosmic to be real. It doesn't need divine permission to be powerful. In fact, maybe love means even more when it's not handed to us by some higher power. When it's something we decide to create, nourish, and protect in spite of the chaos. In this view, love is a human miracle. It's what we build in the ruins. It's what we cling to in the silence. It's what reminds us that even if the universe is indifferent, we are not. We can still choose kindness. We can still say, I see you, I'm here. Maybe love in a godless world is not about salvation or eternity. Maybe it's about being present, fully, painfully, beautifully. It's about holding someone's hand, not because a divine command tells us to, but because in that moment, nothing matters more. And maybe that's enough. There's a strange contradiction at the heart of love. For something we hold so sacred, love can bring us some of the deepest pain we'll ever experience. Why is it that the very thing that gives us warmth, meaning, and joy is also the thing most capable of tearing us apart? Perhaps it's because love in its truest form asks us to open ourselves completely. And in that opening, we become vulnerable. When we love someone, we give them access to the tenderest parts of our psyche. We trust them not to hurt us, not to leave us, not to change in ways that might leave us behind. And yet, change is inevitable. So is loss. So is misunderstanding. This is the emotional cost of intimacy. The closer someone gets to our center, the more their absence or betrayal can wound us. And yet, we still love, over and over again. Why? Because even in the midst of heartbreak, love reminds us that we were alive, that we risked something, that we believed in connection, in meaning beyond ourselves. Pain is the echo of that belief, is the cost of caring, yes, but also the proof that we cared at all. Some of the most painful forms of love are those that remain unresolved, unspoken affection, love that's not returned, or love that once thrived but withered without warning. These carry a kind of silent ache, not a sharp stab, but a lingering throb. We nurse these wounds in private. Sometimes they even become part of who we are. And then there's the grief that comes when someone we love dies. This pain isn't just about absence. It's about the collapse of a world we built with them. Their routines, their laughter, the specific way they understood us. All of it vanishes into memory. We are left holding love with nowhere to place it. That's what grief really is. Love with no destination. But even in the depths of suffering, love has a strange resilience. It doesn't go away. In fact, it often grows more tender. We begin to love in new ways, through memory, through quiet tribute, through carrying someone's spirit forward in our choices. Truth is, the more deeply we love, the more we open ourselves to suffering. But the alternative, not loving at all, feels far worse. A life without love may be safe, but it's also hollow. So maybe love and suffering aren't opposites. Maybe they're twins, born from the same longing for connection, for meaning, for a sense of home in another human being. And in the tangled relationship between love and pain, we find a kind of beauty. It reminds us that what hurts us is also what heals us, that what breaks us open is what allows the light to get in. Maybe that's the paradox we must accept. Love hurts not because it's flawed, but because it's real. And in that rawness, in that willingness to feel, we become most fully ourselves. What do you think? Is love the meaning of life? Tell us what you think in the comment section below. Click on the like button and subscribe for more videos on love, grief, and life. After all the questions, the detours, the unraveling of meaning and the reconstruction of it, what are we left with? We chase truth in philosophy, search for patterns in the stars, probe the edges of consciousness itself. We dissect the human condition, argue with the void, and ask again and again, why are we here? And quietly, like a gentle hand on our shoulder, love answers back. Not with words, but with presence. It doesn't shout, it doesn't solve the mysteries of the universe in one thunderclap of revelation, but it stays. In our darkest hours, in our simplest joys, it lingers. In the way a mother looks at her child, in the way two strangers share a smile, in the quiet act of holding someone's hand as they take their final breath. It's there, a true line, a thread running through the whole human story. We often think of love as something we give or receive, but sometimes it feels more like something we are, a current we tap into, a state of being rather than a transaction. In those moments, we sense, if only briefly, that this might be what everything was leading to. The most surprising thing about love, when we strip away all the sentimentality and surface romance, is how practical it is. It sustains communities, it fuels acts of courage, it gives people a reason to survive, to forgive, to try again. It's the glue holding together families, friendships, fragile worlds. But love isn't easy. It demands our vulnerability. It asks us to risk, to care, even when it's not convenient, to choose compassion, even when we've been hurt. It's messy, unpredictable, often unglamorous, but still, something in us keeps returning to it. So, is love the meaning of life? Maybe it's not the only meaning, but perhaps it's the closest thing we'll ever know to a universal truth. It transcends language, culture, and even logic. We may never fully explain it, but we recognize it instantly, like a melody we've always known. At the end of the long philosophical search, when the abstractions fall away, what remains is often a person, a memory, a choice to love despite uncertainty. A recognition that in this vast and indifferent cosmos, love is what makes us feel less alone. And maybe, just maybe, that's the answer we've been looking for all along.